I've got a lot going on right now. We're in the middle of like a moving process, putting our house on the market. So we've been, cleaning things up, staging things, throwing things away, moving stuff out, and we're in like a bare bones spot at home now, where I don't even have like a couch to sit on at night. So it's kind of an interesting, weird thing. And it's going to continue over the next 3-4 weeks, just because we're actually doing a little bit of construction on the new house before we move in. So bear with me. I'm sorry about not streaming as regularly as I would like, and not producing videos as regularly as I like, and not producing blogs as regularly as I like, and actually not writing. I actually have not been writing at all this week, just because it's been so hectic. So, but whatever, trying to get as much as I can done anyway, and trying to give you guys as much content as I can. I appreciate everybody, and thank you especially for those who have backed Clockwork Dancer, because that book really has taken off pretty decently. And, it's nice to see that folk are into reading these things. So that link is down below in the description. And please hit that like button, leave some comments and all that. Hey, Captain Cummings in the chat there. I see you. And I'll, if you want to come on, you can come on. I'm going to do like a quick thing, probably just where it's like a, how to. So I don't know if it'll be that interesting for you to actually come on here, but you're welcome if you want to. Just let me know in Facebook or something. So going to try to get this going, and going to just read the 2 super chats I got on Wednesday. My next apology is that I'm not a professional YouTuber. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at this, and we don't get super chats very often. So I did not actually see that I received any super chats. So I just was streaming right along, talking with Cummings and the great one, the People's Champion, the Comic Book Hut, and just was having a lot of fun bantering with them, and did not see that some super chats came my way. In fact, 2 super chats came my way, one of which I actually talked to one of them on Twitter and said, sorry for not reading that. I didn't mean to just diss anybody there. It was just I did not see them until after the stream was over, because Hut messaged me and said, you got super chats, and I'm like, what? So let me see how I can find these. There's got to be a way to like look this up. I know I did it the other day. Again, not professional YouTuber. That's kind of what happens in my life. So yeah, okay. There's a monetization tab, and there's a supers chat tab, and here we are. Okay, I've got them. Okay, see all. Cool. General Grudge, as I mentioned, we're going to just read this one first, because General Grudge left a nice super chat. He wanted to say sorry to John or anyone who might have angered on Twitter today. Not intentional. I know he got in a couple arguments with some folk, and Grudge is a nice guy. I just want thank you very much for leaving that super chat, brother. I appreciate you being there, and appreciate, in fact, everyone being there. Hey, Comics Du Nord and Lorenzo, I appreciate you guys being there too. And hey, Bradford, welcome. Yeah, so the next super chat that came through was actually a fan of the Comic Book Hut, and he left me a $15 super chat. I feel super bad for missing this, and I hope he shows up. Cliff Elor, sorry, said, shout out to the Hut. He is the truth. And John, I want some writing advice. What is your process? And that's what I'm going to spend most of my time talking about today. I go over this stuff pretty regularly, but I think, it's a repetition thing. Writing is for sure a repetition thing. Writing is one of those things where it's like you just get better as you keep doing it. And it, all art's that way. Piano's that way. Anything you want to get good at really is just reps. Weightlifting's that way. You always see the guys get buff and bulk. They don't do it in one day. They go to the gym every day and they spend hours doing it. And that's why they're so good. And it's a pretty simple thing, yet it's a very complicated thing, because it's very hard to train yourself to get into a mentality where you're doing anything every day, except for easy things to do, like turn on the TV and kind of tune out. I know a lot of people do that, and I always tell people, like, the first thing you want to do is stop those sort of habits so that you're doing something productive. I actually have my piano today because I had to just drop by my house real quick, so I can kind of like kind of show my years of, I don't have my chair, but it's a that's of course Kanye's new song. It's off of his first album, or his first Christian album, the new one, with Sunday Service Choir, where it's got the sing till the power of the Lord comes down. We're gonna sing till the power of the Lord comes down. And I learned that. I mean, I practice that sort of thing. I practice my piano every single day, 20-30 minutes every single day, and I get my reps doing that, and I go play at church every weekend. So, and it's the same thing with writing, is really what it comes down to. If you want to start becoming a writer or anything you want to get good at, start by forcing yourself to do something 20 minutes a day. Just make it happen 20 minutes a day, every single day. Do not take a break. Do not give yourself an excuse or an out. Make it happen no matter what. And that is the best advice I could give anybody on getting good or anything, at anything. Weightlifting, you should do the same thing. If you want to become a good miniatures model painter, same thing. If you want to become a good artist, same thing. I mean, it all comes down to the reps and flexing your muscles over and over and over again. And 20 minutes, I think, is a pretty good commitment level to where it's like, it's not overwhelming. You can make yourself do it. You got to turn off the freaking social media notifications and all that. That is the number one thing. If you are on Twitter, if you are on Facebook, Instagram, even YouTube, you're not going to be doing that work. It's just a very, very simple thing. Those distractions are there, and they're just part of your brain that tricks you into like thinking like, okay, I can be lazy and not do something. So yeah, Fiona brings it up. Great. You can write during your breaks at work too. I often do that real quick. I just spend a 10-minute sprint. I go, and then I get back to work. So I take every second I can, and that's how I can come out with so many books. So that's the first thing anybody needs to do in these sorts of situations where they want to get into writing. I would recommend doing it every day. If you're trying to do fiction, definitely stay fiction. The blog's nice, of course. I try to blog every day, and I've been bad about that, like I said, because of my busyness in my life. And I've got a vacation coming up next week too. So it's like a double it's like a double problem right now. So I'll be gone for a bit from Wednesday through, I think, Monday or Tuesday, going out to Turks and Caicos for a wedding. So, but I'm going to be writing during that time. I'm probably going to just kill social media, and I'm going to enjoy the vacation, enjoy the beach and scenery. And I'm still going to keep writing, even though it's vacation time. And that's part of the process. You just got to keep doing it and keep pushing. I'm way behind. I meant to finish this novel I'm at by the 15th of this month was the deadline I gave myself. And I am about 2/3 through it. So I've got a ways to go. And I did not meet that goal because I just haven't done anything this week. So keep yourself on it. Keep yourself free from distractions. Just set that time limit and go. And that's the first thing to do. The second thing to do is just make sure you got your brainstorming. I think most people are pretty okay with coming up with ideas. I read Comic du Nord's book the other day, and he's got a great idea. He's got this like kingdom set in the middle of a jungle, and this one kingdom surviving, and he there's obviously some trouble with some lizard people they're fighting, which is always fun. And then in the middle of it, he kind of goes in the background of how there was this other kingdom that just got destroyed from their hubris, and it was a lot of fun. So I mean, just like very, very simple things like a kingdom fighting for survival is a great idea and starting point to do something. So especially if you're in sci-fi or fantasy or whatever. So that's having the idea is the starting point. Write it down. What I do is I come up with the idea, the basic idea, and I go into like a brief paragraph kind of summarizing the idea. And I did this. There's a stream where I actually like brainstormed a comic from like 2 or 3 months ago. I don't remember the title of it. You can find it maybe. I post a lot, but if you can find it, you can see me brainstorming live. And this is my thought process at that point was specifically for comics, but my novel writing process is very much the same. Once I've got my idea down, I've got a paragraph of whatever a kingdom in Africa has to survive from lizard people attacking or whatever. That's not my idea again. That's Comics to Nords. That's the one I just read. That's why it's an example. And you start there and you start thinking about it. You start thinking about, well, who are they going to be the characters in the kingdom, right? Obviously, you got a king, you got a queen, you got maybe they're little children, prince and princess. You've got this like knight guy who's kind of angry guy or something, and then you got like this sort of like shaman chick who's like his foil, but potentially a love interest. I mean, so that's what you break down. You break down the characters next, and the characters then are going to logically dictate what your plot's going to be. Drake, the Spanish guy from the Middle Ages, that was the one I brainstormed live here. So that was and that's happening now. I am developing that. I've got an artist for it, and we are working on making that into a actual comic right now. So I'll have more on that as it becomes a reality. I don't like to talk about the projects in the early stages, especially with comics, because so much depends on the artist and what's going to happen with the artist and those sorts of things. You come up with your characters, come up with some ideas for them. I usually make a character sheet. There's lots of templates for that sort of thing. If you go online and are like, world building character sheet or whatever, you kind of want to get their physical attributes. You kind of know what they look like. You want to get their mental attributes, like angry guy. If somebody's got a chip on their shoulder or something like that, that actually makes for a pretty compelling start to a story. So you come out with something like that. I'll think about the stars entwined. I have my character Tamar, who is my main female protagonist, and she's being groomed for leadership. But she's being coddled as she's being groomed for leadership. So the leader of the Aritian Empire has taken her kind of under his wing, and he has just pushed her up through the ranks. But as he's pushed her up through the ranks, he actually cannot handle losing any control over anything. So he tries to keep control over the situations as best as possible. And it comes down to, even though he gave her command of a starship to kind of like build her leadership skills and to build her up through the society, he actually rolls in the middle of the book and seizes command of the starship from her, just so he can take personal control of the situation. It frustrates Tamar a lot because she just feels like she's an imposter. She feels like she doesn't deserve the leadership position. She feels like she's just not giving an opportunity to shine for herself. And so she has a character motivation that she wants to prove herself at that point. And that drives a lot of her focus in the story, and that drives a lot of what she does. So that's definitely one way to do that. And so I always build the characters first, because I think if you build plot first, your characters end up vehicles for serving the plot. And you don't want that so much. If they end up as vehicles for serving the plot, that works pretty well in like plots where you have like a twisty sort of setup where you're like, it's all about the plot twist or whatever. Brandon Sanderson writes his books like that. All the characters are very much like parts of like showing off his magic systems, and then the plot twist at the end. There's always like a twist. Brandon always does a twist, and then he does a twist on the twist to show you that you were wrong in thinking you were knowing where this is going. And all of his characters always are intentionally leading up towards that. You can tell he builds that first, and he builds his magic systems first. And then the characters are just like latched on to certain aspects of those magic systems. And the characters feel kind of two-dimensional because of that. They don't feel really fleshed out as full characters. Even, this is one of the biggest writers in the world. And, I mean, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. It's fine. I mean, obviously his magic systems and all that are just like brilliantly done. I could never go into that much detail just because I'm not that autistic. But it's doing the characters first, I believe, will get you to a spot where you can develop things naturally from the characters so that it feels like the characters are progressing and being much more of actual real people rather than just like following along in a plot. So I build the characters, I come up with it, and then I go back to my original idea and I go, okay, so here's my idea. I'm going to break it down now into where I want this to end up. So I come up with where I want it to end up. And I go, okay, I want the Stars Entwined to end with an epic space battle between two civilizations, Earth civilization and the Eurasian civilization. There's spoilers here if you haven't read it, but you should read it because I came out with it 2 years ago. So I'll put the link in. There you go. And you can grab that if you want to. And I also wanted a personal plot because this is a romance story at its heart. So my original thought was like I have a James Bond like character. What happens if he like, when he goes undercover and he actually just like absolutely falls in love with the enemy agent, right? And that was kind of my basic idea for the story. And then I threw that into a space opera setting where we have two empires like slowly descending into a much bigger war. And that's what we get. So I've got the bigger plot, which is the war going on, and I know I want to end it in an epic space battle, and I've got the personal plot where I've got the guy who's going to go undercover as an alien, and he's going to end up into the hot alien chick. So we know that is what's going to happen. And so I start building an outline from there. I hope giving examples is the best way to do this because I can't really. I think it'd be very dry to be able to try to talk with this without examples. So you start building it up and you're like, okay, so I'm gonna do like how am I gonna format this? And for me, I like to format things, even though I do science fiction, like they're romance books. And romance books go back and forth between perspectives. So you've got, male protagonist perspective, female protagonist perspective, male protagonist perspective, female protagonist perspective. And I do that in almost all of my books that you'll see. And you'll, I do that in Flying Sparks. I go back and forth between the two. I go back, I do this in Stars Entwined. I do it in the Justified series also. It's a romance way of breaking down the plot, but I find it works very well. And so I have to develop Sean's plot in that, starting to where, he's going to become a secret agent, and then he's going to get placed on the alien starship, and then he's going to get, involved in the war there as he's delivering information back to Earth, fall for the alien commander of that starship, and then he's going to have to be conflicted about what to do at some point because he, has his loyalties to his people, and then he has his loyalties to her. So I develop it from there. I actually break it down scene by scene. There's me thinking this was a cooking stream. You said you'd give us money for the cooking stream. You haven't given me the money yet, so we're behind. And Captain Cummings and I act when we get paid, right? I don't know. Maybe he'll act. I don't know. Captain Cummings has not officially agreed to doing my cooking stream yet, even though I've like talked about it all the time, like it's totally going to happen. But I digress. So I break it down into the individual scenes. So I start out and I try to go back and forth so that the two plot lines weave together and build together and reach the same climaxes together. Oh yeah, baby, reach the same climaxes together. That's what we're talking about. And then so I break down scene by scene, which most of the time ends up chapter by chapter. And then do it that way. And so I've got my beginning for both characters. I've got my middle for both characters where things are really getting rough. and things are falling apart in the war. And I've got my sort of end where we've got this epic space battle and lots of personal questions that have to be resolved there. Once I've got it broken down scene by scene, I've got an outline. Usually my outlines are about 3-4 pages, I guess, because I've got all the scenes down in there in pretty good detail. And then I start writing. And I just I try to hit one point of the outline at least every single day until I'm done. And that's the goal. And then I just do it that way. And draft through there. Sometimes I come up with interesting things that change, and then I have to kind of revise my outline. What I do in that situation, so in the Stars Entwined, the actual big twist of the entwining and all that, right? Which is the aliens have this genetic thing where they have a bond together that they telepathically sort of have between each other on 2 different levels. They have an empathic one. It's kind of a low level where they can tell whether somebody's lying or not. They can get excitable together, and they develop this as an evolutionary tactic because their world has these tremendous flash flood storms. And so the factions bond is what is called in the book. Is supposed to be just a vestigial part of that, where they would have to have a warning system that transmitted between each other, so they could run to their high cliffs, caves, and get out of danger before those things happened. And now in modern times, of course, they don't need that as much, but it still exists, and the factions are created this huge bond of loyalty between there. And on a deeper level on that, in order to get the procreation going, there's a entwining bond, which is between a man and a woman, and that's it. And then when they copulate, they form that bond, and they have it for life, and they have this ultra telepathic bond together, so they can rear their children better, etc. And so I created this very I don't want to call it subversive world because it's the opposite, where there's zero fornication possible, right? And this is my storyline. So all that happened in the middle of what I'm of my outline. So those are my ideas I came up with in the middle of the book, right? Yeah, no, my ideas are deep. They might not seem like it on the surface, and the thing is, you can read it, and I got little glimmers there about it, but I don't spell this stuff out for people. So I try to leave it subtle, so that the ideas really don't get in the way of the story, right? And the story at that point, once I came up with that entwining concept, had to change. I had to shift my outline pretty drastically at that point. So I just stop where I'm writing, and I shift my outline, and I kind of rewrite the ending. And I typically have to do this about 2/3 of the way through the book in every book I do. And then I change my outline so it all reflects all the changes that have happened over the course of the book. And then I just continue on. I plow through my first draft, and then I go back to the beginning and kind of reintroduce those elements in my second draft, so that it flows together, and so that those changes don't actually have any jarring starts and stops that looks like it was 2 different books written. So that's basically my process. And so my second draft is usually dedicated towards fixing, because I always come up with something interesting, like I said, in the middle of my book, and I want to throw it in as a concept. And the second draft is always made towards my fixing of that. In comics, it's a little easier. Comics are so fast and so small. I don't typically have those aha moments where I'm changing everything in the middle of the story. 22-page story, there's not a ton of room for that kind of thing, like a novel would have. And since I write it all in a span of 3 or 4 days, it's not like writing a novel where it takes me 45 days. And so I don't have different moods and different things come up during the span of comics so much. So I don't do as much of the like fixing what's going on. I usually just adjust dialogue so that the characters get a little punchier, so you can tell which character's which a little better, and so that there's no inconsistencies and things like that. So that's my second draft process. So that's what we got. First draft process is quick idea write down, think about it for a couple days, write the characters, figure out who the characters are, then break down a plot so that the plot is out there and outlined. And then my first draft, usually because I've outlined it already, I'm really cleaning up the problematic elements of the outline, like if there's any pacing problems or if there's any inconsistency problems, I get that going at that point. And then I usually rewrite the end of my outline during the first draft at some point as I come up with something, if I come up with something that merits it. And then finish the book from there, go back in my second draft and smooth it out. And then I go through one more time and kind of like go over grammar and typos and stuff, which is I'm not very good at, as Drake will let you know. And that's that. Then I hand it off to my editor. So that is my entire writing process right there in a nutshell. And I hope that helped somebody. I hope who asked that again? It was Cliff Elor again sent that super chat. So I hope doing a whole stream on that warranted the super chat and was worth it. And I hope he watches this. Yeah. So that's it. Any questions? I'm gonna play piano while you come up with questions, if you got anything. Any requests? I don't know. I've got a piece of sheet music right now by a band called Copeland on my piano, and they are my favorite band, I think. And just they have a beautiful like sort of they had it's a lilting sort of feel to the song. And yeah, it's a really nice chord progression right there. I really like what they did. So that's it. I'm kind of out of time for today, so I'm gonna have to run this pretty short, I think, if we don't have great questions. When is cooking streams with Cummings gonna start? I'm probably gonna have to move and get all done and set up to like really have a prepped cooking sort of process thing, because that's gonna take a long time. And I don't have time for that right now. So so maybe like March, April, but then Cummings is going to be in the middle of like these like finals and stuff, so we might have to delay it till he's out of school again. We'll see. And I think that's it. So thanks guys for tuning in. Check out the books if you think this is helpful and you think my writing style means it's good. I hope that's a cool thing for y'all. I don't know. We're gonna be doing a lot. We're not gonna be doing much next week because, like I said, I got a vacation coming up on Wednesday. So I may have a stream Monday and Tuesday, may not. I don't know. I've been reading Maximum Carnage, which is a killer. Maximum Carnage. Get it? It's been. I read the whole thing in like 3 sittings, and my brain kind of hurts from doing that. So I will have a review on the Epic Collection of Maximum Carnage, which just came out pretty soon. There is one more story in there. It's they padded it this time because they've re-released Maximum Carnage like 15 times, which pisses me off. I've bought it before because I have like this like complete Spider-Man collection pretty much, right? What really annoys me is they've got this run of the Epic collections for Spider-Man that go 15, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So they've got like this chunk of like almost 10 years, but they never released book 16. And I was expecting book 16 to come out so I could have this whole chunk that goes up to about the mid 300s, like after Todd McFarlane leaves and all that. And instead of putting out 16, because they have that Absolute Carnage event that they're, now all the graphic novels and all that are coming out of it. They just wanted to promote Carnage more. And so they are putting out Maximum Carnage again as an Epic collection, which is now volume 25. So I don't get that nice like run through that is complete to be able to just plow through and like read like 10 years of it, which I was really annoyed by. And I'm really annoyed because I also already have Maximum Carnage. And what they did to get people like me to buy it again is they added a graphic novel from like the mid 90s, which is like an 80-page graphic novel of like Spider-Man and Sabretooth or something like that. And so you've got the Carnage storyline, and then you've got this like totally unrelated graphic novel that just like is tacked onto it just to add pages to it. And I'm not happy with their way they did the Epic Collection right there. But I read Maximum Carnage. I have not read the graphic novel yet of that, and I will have a review of that. And whew, guys, this didn't hold up well. But I'll do a full review later. So I'm going to try to get that done before my vacation. I might not. We'll see. Again, if you have any writing questions ever, please send them to me. I try to use my Comics Writer Pro Secrets as, not so epic of a collection, correct. I try to use my Comics Writer Pro Secrets to answer questions on writing, and that's where I like, do that, or I come up with something sometimes and just write it or just go on about it. But I prefer to just answer reader questions if I can, and just like make sure I can get you guys enlightened or whatever it is. So please send those. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Go check out Clockwork Dancer, because that's our project right now. Dynamite Thor, I formatted the Kickstarter. I got the Kickstarter all built. My Patreon subscribers got to see the preview of that, and I want to thank Drake again for giving me some ideas on that, of which I changed one of the goals. And we're going to launch that after I get back from vacation too, kind of mid-February. And we're going to hit the ground running on that and just be streaming constantly. So I'm ramping up to it. I'm going to take my vacation, and I'm not going to stream very much. And then I'm going to just ramp up and hopefully go every single day. And my artist says he'll come on a bunch. So hopefully we'll get to see him drawing. We'll get to talk with him a ton. He has been on once before, and we're going to get him on a bunch so that you guys can really get to know him. He's a great guy, and I'm happy that I've been able to work with him. And that, it was Baron, it was not you. Oh, sorry. I credit Drake for everything. It was Baron. Sorry, Baron. Thank you, Baron, for doing that. Sweet. And that's it. Have a good day, guys. I've got a ton of work to do, so I can't stay much longer. I appreciate you guys being here and all the support and all that, and we will see you soon.